travels in this past year, we went to Belize, and in Belize they have a style of making black beans that I've really never encountered anywhere else. So I set out to try and somewhat imitate it. So this will be maybe Yucatan style black beans because it's just something I made up. But it came out really good. So last time I did this, I made 2 cups of beans, and we had beans, and then we had beans, and we still had more beans. And that was after, I'd made it for a dinner for 6 people, and there were only 4 of us. And so anyway, this time I'm using a cup of beans, and I have rinsed them. These are locally grown black beans, which will just be delicious. Oh, well, I've got them. I might as well I'm gonna go right into a slow cooker with my beans. And then I'm gonna start with my chilies. And now I have 1 Ancho, a nice big fatty. These are 2 hatch chilies with a little bit of heat in them. These are 3 Juajillos, which these are the smooth skin type. New Mexico chilies also have a similar look and flavor. And then 2 Moritos, or dried Tbls. So I'm going to take the seeds and stems out of these 6. I could just cut these up, and then I'm going to sweat them in a pan, soak them in some water, and then I'm going to blend them all up. So I'm going to take the stems and seeds off of these, and that takes a little while, and we'll come back. All right, so when it comes to sweating the peppers, I've taken the seeds out and torn them into smaller pieces, and I've got a hot, dry pan, no oil or anything, and just what I'm trying to do is get some of the sugars in these peppers to caramelize a little bit. So you'll experience this happening. You'll see them begin to bubble a little, smoke a little. You don't want to burn them, so if it really starts smoking, that's not a good sign. But you just keep stirring them around, and you'll see them change a little bit as they warm up. And this is just a way to extract as much of the good flavor as we can from these guys. The Moritos always come with no stem, so you don't have to destem them, and you don't need to worry too much about getting all the seeds out of them. That's kind of what you want in a Morito. And see if we can see if we can get the skin of one of these to really show some obvious bubbling. Might not happen this time.
I'm starting to hear some sizzling.
I put
Temp, you have this on medium high.
Yep. Last time I did this, I put the Moritos in whole, and they just puffed up like puffed rice or something. It was crazy. So on this one here, you can see I just turned it over. You see how shiny it got from the oils coming out of it, and you can see little bubbles happening down there. See there, that's what we're after. And so you keep moving them around. That'll happen to more of them, and they'll start jumping around. Yeah, that's looking really good. And then we're just going to go to some soaking water and soften these a bit. And then we'll use the water as our liquid for our beans, or at least some of the liquid for our beans. There we go. I can see them starting to smoke a little. They're really fragrant. Let's get them in their soaking water. Throw a few on the floor for good measure. And just make sure they're all submerged here. That ancho really needs to soften up a lot. But yeah, look at that. That's gonna be beautiful. All right, so I've soaked these for almost a half an hour now. I like to get the water good and flavored, and I like to get the peppers good and soft. So I'm just gonna put them in a blender. And we're gonna use some of the water, so it doesn't matter how much water you get in at this point. I believe what we're looking for here is about 4 cups of liquid to our 1 cup of beans. And so I'm gonna measure this just so I can tell you that I know how much I'm using, instead of just eyeballing it this time, which is what I would ordinarily do. But, so there's 2 cups of soaking liquid.
That's gonna have a lot of flavor in it.
And yes, it does. And I'm gonna use all 2 cups here. And to my chilies, I'm gonna add 8 to 10 cloves of garlic, peeled. Doesn't have to be chopped because we're gonna grind the whole thing up. Let's, while we're here, go with 2 tablespoons of cumin and a tablespoon of coriander. And then let's zoop this up and see what we got. So it's plenty of liquid to get this to blend really easily. And you don't, we want the liquid because we're cooking beans in it, so you don't really have to try and get this super tight or anything. I'm just gonna put in about 2 tablespoons of molasses. We should wipe that off before we put it away.
Yeah, I'll make it challenging
Keep the
next
ants
time.
down. And let's look at some interesting
Oh, careful, don't get too hot.
chili spices. There's a little habanero. Maybe a little bit of urfa. The urfas are not hot. The habaneros are very.
Yeah, and that habanero powder there, that is hot.
It's really good.
I put it in something and was like, wow, okay, that was hardly any.
So I'm going with about 1/8 of a teaspoon of the habanero. So the Hatch chilies and the Moritos also would have a little bit of spice to them. So
That might not have been opened before.
it's not like I need to add a lot to spice this up. These urfas, yeah, we've used them. These urfas are, they're like a super moist
Oh, okay, focus.
thing in here. They have a really strong, like dark chili flavor, like
Let me
like a,
Doesn't want to focus. These are, I don't know why it's not focusing, but these are bottles that we bought on our New Mexico trip at a spice shop in Santa Fe.
yeah, that's gonna be delicious. All right, let's zoop this up just a little bit more. Okay, and we're just gonna pour this right over our beans. So you can see how much flavor we're packing into this liquid that's going in here. I'm also going to add 2 more cups of liquid, and that will be chicken broth. In fact, I think I'm going to use the chicken broth to get the rest of this out of here.
And you could probably use any kind of broth. You could
Yes.
do a vegetarian
Actually,
version.
I think for this, if I had beef or pork broth, I would use it, but I don't. So chicken broth it is. And I'm gonna measure this. Oops. I guess we'll come back once I have the broth defrosted. So here's 2 cups of chicken broth. Actually, I think this might even be turkey broth. And I'm just gonna use this to get all the rest of that good chili flavor out of here. And then right into our beans. So this little mixture is going to be in this slow cooker set on high, or no, set on low.
The 8-hour one?
10 hours.
10 hours.
And then when the slow cooker goes to warm, I'm going to leave it in here for another 10 hours. This is going to sit in the slow cooker for 20 hours. And then we will come back and play with it some more. So black beans, there's the Serious Eats Test Kitchen. That's not quite what they call it. I forget what they call it.
I think it's just Serious Eats.
But anyway, they did some tests on black beans, whether you soak them before, whether you put salt in when you soak them, or whether you soak them without salt, or don't soak them at all, and whether you add salt when you start cooking them. And they're trying to get a nice cooked bean that behaves well. And they found that soaking made very little difference. Adding salt made the beans break apart. In this case, we don't care because we are going to just blend this up. So it doesn't matter how the beans come out. But still, you'll notice that I haven't put any salt in here. And I don't plan to.
Okay.
Until we get right to the very end, maybe.
I'm glad I asked.
All right, there you go. All right, so these beans are just cooking along great right here. It's been a few hours. The only thing to keep watching for is to make sure it has enough liquid, and this certainly should not have a problem with that. Speaking of liquids, the magic ingredient going into beans is a nice tequila or mezcal. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of this Cazadores Reposado. Just to add a little flavor. All the alcohol will cook out of it, but it'll give you a little bit of that agave flavor in there. It'll be delicious. Okay, there you have it. All right, so here's what our beans look like after 20 hours. See, a little bit soupy, which is good because we want this to go through a blender. So I think it's looking good. I'm going to deepen the flavor a little bit with a 1/2 ounce of baking chocolate. I got 1 ounce out, but I'm just going to put in half of it at this point. We don't really want it to taste like chocolate. We just want to deepen the flavor a little bit. So I'm going to let this cool down a little before I try playing with the blender.
I think immersion blender would be the way to go. But not in the pot.
It might
We'll see.
work.
We'll see.
But so anyway, let it cool down, and we'll play with it later. All right, our beans have cooled sufficiently to be able to safely work with them a little bit. So let's see if it's deep enough in here for the immersion blender to do its job. It looks like it's doing fine.
Oh, it'll spray me.
So we want this to be completely smooth.
We'll give you some time doing that.
Yeah. So look how beautiful that is. We definitely had to put it in a deeper bowl, and even so, I'm still splashing all over the place.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't wear one of my new
White shirts.
Yeah.
Almost looks like same color as Molly.
Molly, yeah. Okay. So now the next thing to do with this
Yeah. Nope.
is to taste it.
Way to go. Is it creamy enough?
Not quite.
Do you put oil in this one maybe?
Well, that's next is to cook it with some sort of animal fat,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
which in this case will be bacon fat. And try and get some oil in it, and at that point I can adjust the seasoning a little. I'm thinking about that other square of chocolate and probably some more cumin.
Okay.
Those come to mind right away.
Okay.
But I'm gonna grind this up just a little bit more.
Okay.
All right, so the next step is with our beans is to work some oil into them. And this is also the opportunity to adjust the seasoning and to blend it some more if it needs it, which I don't think it's going to. So I really like to get some animal fat in there. And if I had duck fat, I would use that. But we used up all our duck fat. But we, like everyone, we keep a jar of bacon fat around. You know, when you make bacon, save the grease, because that's good stuff. So I'm using bacon fat. I've got a little layer in my pan here. If I don't drop the bowl, and we're at just kind of a medium high to medium heat here. And you know, I don't want to deep fry the beans, but I do want to get this fat into them. Now, if you don't have any sort of animal fat, you know, traditionally lard would be used, which is again from pigs, but you could just use olive oil or any kind of oil.
Shortening? Well, I guess it's basically oil.
Yeah, shortening. You don't really want like a coconut oil or flavored oil. So now this is probably going to sploot while it heats up because it's thick and it started out slightly colder than room temp. So we should be prepared for that. But I'm going to allow this to cook so that the oil gets mixed in, and I may add still more bacon grease as this goes along. This whole cooking process I would expect to be about a half an hour. And it will make the flavor of the beans richer because of the oil in it, and it will also deepen it a little bit just because it's cooking it a little bit more with all the ingredients together. All right, so there you have it. I'm gonna let this do its thing for a little while. We'll see what we end up with. So here's what we have. Look at this. It's this nice, smooth beans. In Belize, these are often served in a ramekin on the plate. Which is, I don't really like having a ramekin on my plate, and we don't have those here, so this will just be served as a side of beans. And only 1 cup of beans, and it made this much, so again, we're swimming in beans, lots more than we need. All right, so a couple days later and a couple shirts later, here we have our beautiful beans. In Belize, these are served in a small ramekin right on the plate, which I don't like. Kelly likes it that way. But we don't have any small ramekins, so we're just gonna make a pile of this on our plate next to our stuffed peppers. But anyway, there you have
It's Belizean, I'd say.
Belizean, yeah.
With a
Yucatan
twist on it.
Yucatan beans. Anyway, thanks for watching Two Cooks in the Kitchen. Be sure to subscribe, and you will see every Tuesday we post a new video. And we always have lots of exciting things going on in our kitchen that you won't want to miss. So thanks for watching Two Cooks in the Kitchen, and we'll see you next time.